Welcome, foolish mortals. Kindly step all the way in and make room for everyone. There's no turning back now. Hey y'all, it's Wendy from Village Card and Crafts. Following a recent trip to the Magic Kingdom and with Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party ramping up, I couldn't help but get inspired to make a Haunted Mansion card. I love the purple and black wallpaper as you enter the mansion in your doom buggy. That was my focal point. But how do I make that? The eyes looking back at me were a real problem. But I found this embossing folder in my supplies, and it was a great start. So let's begin there. Make sure that you stay until the very end because I found a way to make the eyes look alive. So this is the card we're going to make first. We begin with some Distress Oxide inks in Villainous Potion and Black Soot, my embossing folder called Damask, and this frightfully awesome stamp set by Tim Holtz, which I will leave a link in the description box for you, and some watercolor paper that is cut to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. While I really enjoy ink blending, you could use a piece of dark purple cardstock if you didn't want to do the blend. I'm creating my own custom color here, and I'm going to blend the Villainous Potion across the entire page of my watercolor cardstock. By using the Villainous Potion ink, I'm going to continue to build the layers until I get the depth of color that I'm looking for. The Haunted Mansion was an original attraction for the Magic Kingdom's opening day on October 1st, 1971. The idea began even before Disneyland opened. Walt himself fell in love with the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California, and he loved the stairs to nowhere and the doors that opened to walls. Imagineers Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie were lead people on the project, but Walt was heavily involved with the New York World's Fair in 1964 and 1965, and ultimately the attraction was redesigned after Walt's death in 1966. Disney Imagineers like to hide Easter eggs throughout the park, and the Haunted Mansion is no exception. Did you make the connection between Yale Gracie the Imagineer and Master Gracie, your ghost host? Don't forget to stick around until the very end where I show you how to make those eyes for your background. While my purple background is drying, I'm going to go ahead and get my Haunted Mansion stamp ready. And I do use a stamping platform and a white piece of Recollections cardstock in the 65-pound weight. Because this is a brand new stamp, I use a glue eraser and I scrub the back of the stamp completely so that my ink will take to the surface and it provides with a much clearer stamped impression. My ink of choice for stamping is VersaFine pigment ink in Onyx Black. I tend to stamp my images off in the pigment ink because it stays wet a little longer, and then I'm using clear embossing powder to cover the lines so that they don't bleed when I color over the image. Tap off any extra, and put the remainder back in your clear embossing pot. I'm using a small piece of cardboard that I have covered with aluminum foil so that I don't have to hang on to my image as that heat gun gets very hot. It does tend to keep my paper from warping nearly as much as if I'm just holding it up in the air. Once your embossing powder has completely melted and you are ready to color, you can choose any medium you like. I'm going to use some very inexpensive alcohol markers, and you could use colored pencils, watercolor, even Crayolas, whatever you have. This particular stamp set doesn't have dies to cut out any of the images, so I am fussy cutting using my Cutter Bee scissors, and I do cut out the spires. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have just cut them off, but either way, it came out great. My purple background is finally dry enough to go ahead and emboss. I, once again, am using the Damask embossing folder. I believe I got that at Joann's. And I'm going to run it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 so I get a nice deep impression. I want to give the raised areas some black color since that's how they are in the original wallpaper. So I'm using black soot, and I am literally just dusting over the face of my cardstock so that I get the black only on the raised section. Y'all, I am totally in love with how this background came out. I did make this background twice. The first one I did, which is on the right, I actually put the Distress Oxide Black Soot directly onto the embossing folder, and then I ran it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6. The result was that the background is black and the raised portion remained purple. That wasn't the look I was going for, so I tried it again, and I like the way it came out second time. I wanted my moon to have a shimmer, but I don't have any of the Wink of Stella pens, so I created my own. I used some Memento inks in the Brilliance color called Platinum Planet, and from the regular dye ink collection, the color Dandelion. And I stamped them out onto a clear acrylic block, and just with a paintbrush, a watercolor marker, I mixed the two and then colored over my moon image to get that shimmer effect I was looking for. Lastly, I'm using the Spellbinders cutting dies called A2 Curved Borders 1. And I've selected one of the borders, and I run it through with black cardstock, again in my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine, and create a hill. I want to give my mansion a grounding effect. Time to get this card put together. I'm using a piece of black Recollections 65-pound weight cardstock that is 8.5 by 11 that I've cut lengthwise. It becomes a top folding card that measures 4.25 by 5.5. A yellow piece of glitter cardstock that is cut 4 inches by 5.25, and of course my purple card, which again is the watercolor paper at 3.75 by 5 inches. Once I determine my card layout, I need to decide on a sentiment, and I have selected one of the sentiments from the same Tim Holtz stamp collection, and it reads, "A strange thing happened." I begin by stamping it out with some clear sticky ink, and then I'm going to emboss it. Send some pixie dust by giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Now, I seem to have found myself in quite the quandary. What color to emboss it in? So in my hand, I've got the Ranger Silver embossing powder, and then I decided, nope, I'm going to go with the gold and stick with the same color scheme that I have all along and not introduce anything new. Using tape runner, I am going to adhere my yellow glitter panel to my black top folding cardstock. I intended to use the same tape runner to attach the next panel to the yellow glitter cardstock. However, I quickly realized that it wasn't going to hold, so I switched to the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue that did the trick. My hill gets measured and applied with the same glue. The Haunted Mansion is going to get popped up with some foam tape, leaving some space so that the moon can slide behind it. We've come to the dead end of our journey in card making, or have we? Nope, I remember. We need to show you how to make the eyes from the wallpaper. I took a close look at the embossed image and I could actually envision eyes. So, using a Ranger embossing pen, I colored over those sections and then embossed them in white, finishing up with a black dot for the eye. All that's left is some ink swiping. I'm going to use black soot again and just swipe it over the entire ink panel, and the embossed area in white will actually resist that ink. Just using a paper towel or a baby wipe, it'll come right off the white. Check out the final panel. I absolutely love this. and I created a card with it. I didn't put a yellow glitter backer because I wanted to make sure that the eyes stood out. And as always, thank you, and we'll see you real soon.